Vintage soul meets the modern age. Let me tell you about my mouthpiece. Hi, and welcome to the Saxophone Academy. I'm Dr. Wally Wallace, and if you're interested in saxophone masterclasses, please do subscribe and be sure to hit the like button to make your sound a little bit more vintage cool. Now today, I'm incredibly excited to announce my new mouthpiece, the 56. 1956 was actually my favorite year for jazz. Art Pepper, Bud Shank, Paul Desmond, Gene Ammons, and Stan Getz were releasing some of my favorite records and redefining the saxophone sound. There was such a warm singing quality to the sound, and the 1950s cool school, for me, was the pinnacle of saxophone tone. Now, sound concept comes from the player, but the right mouthpiece is like a companion that helps you get there and can make the journey all the more comfortable and fun on the way. And buying a vintage mouthpiece can be a problem, an expensive problem. If you're lucky enough to find a good one, the price tag is quite hefty. And finding a good one can be a chore. I'm lucky enough to live close to a prolific dealer of vintage mouthpieces, so when I bought my 1960s Tonalin, I could try a drawer full, half a dozen of the exact same model. Many of them did not play well at all, and the tip openings were highly inconsistent. If I didn't live close enough to go try them myself, it would have been a nightmare of a process. Also, later I was in a recording session and a microphone stand bumped into my 1960s Tonalin, and my heart stopped. If it did crack, which those things do crack very easily, I'm not sure I could have afforded to replace it, and certainly not sure I could find one that played as well. So the Saxophone Academy has partnered with Windy City Woodwinds to produce my dream mouthpiece. So last year, I reached out to the guys and we started measuring and prototyping, and the result is the 56. Now, there's a lot of great modern mouthpieces out there, but they seem to be getting brighter and louder. They're like F1 cars. This to me feels more like a vintage Aston Martin. It's got all the power you need, but it gets you there in style. So like the vintage mouthpieces that I love, it's got a tall chamber and straight sidewalls. It gives it plenty of projection, but also a really warm core to the sound. And the 56 comes in a standard 80 thousandths of an inch tip opening. Now you may be wondering why just one tip opening? Well, this is the facing that really makes this mouthpiece sing and come alive. And having played on many vintage mouthpieces of this style, a lot of tip openings just don't work. If you look on eBay for vintage mouthpieces, certain tip openings sell for many times more than the other models. It's because they simply work better. I wanted to take the guesswork out of tip opening and just make one that's going to work for a variety of styles, playing experiences, and reed strengths. So how does it sound? Well, I've been using it for the past month on all our YouTube videos and demos for our fundamentals course. With a 3-strength reed, it feels like a very crisp, straight-ahead bebop sound. And I felt very comfortable going all the way up to a 4-strength reed, where I felt like I was fully enrolled in the West Coast Cool School. Now, I spend a lot of hours playing and practicing each week, getting YouTube videos together and demonstrations for online courses, and I can honestly say I have never been more comfortable playing on a mouthpiece. And I've spent much less time fussing with reeds, and that's the result of a truly hand-faced mouthpiece. More reeds are going to seal, more reeds are going to work out of the box, And as many hours as I spend practicing and preparing for what I do, that's really important to me. Now, speaking of hand facing, let's talk about how it's made. And it is made with fusion deposition modeling, which you know as 3D printing. But before you turn your nose up at it, this is different than other 3D mouthpieces you might be familiar with. First off, it's not made from an ABS plastic, it's made from a high-quality Canadian PLA, which not only is it durable, it's actually food safe, which if you're practicing as many hours as I want you to practice, that's really important to me. Secondly, this is printed in high resolution. It takes considerably longer to make, but it also makes it much more precise. You won't see giant ridges on the surface, and certainly not on the table and facing like some other 3D mouthpieces. So the table and rails have a glass-like smooth finish that gives it a great seal to the reed and makes it much more reed-friendly. And this isn't just finishing or sanding off any imperfections. That alters the facing of the mouthpiece. What they're actually doing is printing a high-quality blank and truly applying the facing by hand. Another difference is this is printed with 100% fill. There aren't any hollow sections of the mouthpiece. It takes longer, it uses more material, but the result is a weight and density that feels like you would expect or whenever you hold it next to a high-quality hard rubber mouthpiece. So they take longer to make in high resolution. With 100% fill, they're more dense, uses a high-quality, food-safe Canadian PLA, and they're hand-faced. So you may be wondering, why is this less than half the price of other 3D mouthpieces? Well, it comes down to mission. You may have noticed that I'm on a mission to get more people playing the saxophone again. I'm deeply passionate about classical and jazz music, and the more people playing saxophone, the better it is for that art form. And likewise, Windy City Woodwinds are on a mission as well. In the words of their president, they want to use the technology the right way to make high-quality professional mouthpieces available to more players. So in the past, whenever I've reviewed mouthpieces, I always talk pros and cons. Obviously, this isn't a review, but I'll be honest. Let's talk pros first. It's a truly hand-faced mouthpiece for $90. It doesn't just punch above its weight, it plays as well as any mouthpiece I have. It's currently my favorite, and that includes my $350 1960s Brillhart Tonalin. The hand-facing is very reed-friendly and works with a variety of reed strengths and playing styles. And the high-quality, food-safe Canadian PLA is not only durable, it won't oxidize like hard rubber and turn funny colors over time. Now let's talk about the cons. It's not shiny. All right, it's hard to be objective about your own mouthpiece, but honestly, if I didn't love it, there's no way I would attach my name to it. And I'm not playing it because I want to sell it. I'm playing it because it's my favorite mouthpiece, and I'm incredibly excited to offer it to my students. So we're currently taking pre-orders to give us time to hand face, measure, test each piece before they go out the door, and we're offering in bone white and matte black. I'll put a link down below. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll be back next week with more educational content. And until then, go practice.